as I'm speaking. First of all, as audience members, you've been put on mute for the webinar. If you would like to ask a question, please put it in the chat box, which you'll find on the top menu of your screen. We will do our best to address questions during the presentation, or we'll answer them during the Q&A portion at the end of the session. For those who would like to use closed captioning, on the menu bar on the top right of your screen, click the three dots with the word More, then click Language and Speech, and then turn on live captions. If you lose connection at any time, or if you need technical support, Jenny Bolton from our Learning and Training team is here to assist. She is on the chat. You can reach out to her that way at any time. And if you lose the meeting, you can just re-enter using the registration link that you received, and she will admit you. I believe only I see the question in the chat, only the presenters are able to be on camera, but if you find you're able to and you want to, we'd love to see other faces in the room, but for now, I believe it's only the speakers who have that ability. Jenny, as soon as you're ready, I'll go ahead and kick us off.
Just give it about 1 minute more. We still have a lot of people joining. And yes, we do keep the cameras and mics off just because of capacity. It certainly helps that we don't have too many. Sometimes it gets overloaded, but certainly at Q&A time, if somebody wants to ask, then I will be able to give them permission to speak.
Great.
All right, just 1 more minute because there's still quite a few coming. We've got a big crowd today.
Right, okay.
Okay, we'll get started. And yes, the webinar is being recorded. So here we go. Thanks for.
Okay, thank you. That was the voice of Jenny from our learning team. Jenny will be available to you at any time through the chat. So please reach out to her if you have any questions. But let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Prosper Canada's webinar to share insights from our project, Building Financial Wellness in First Nation Communities. My name is Helen Payne-Watt, and I'm a senior officer at Prosper Canada and one of the leads on this project. We're glad you can join us today, and we look forward to sharing some of our project insights with you. Also, we are grateful for the support of IG Wealth Management, which is making our work on this project possible. So for those who are not familiar with Prosper Canada, founded in 1986, Prosper Canada is a national charity dedicated to expanding economic opportunity for Canadians living in poverty through program and policy innovation. As Canada's leading champion of financial empowerment, we work with governments, businesses, and groups to develop and promote financial policies, programs, and resources that transform lives and foster the prosperity of all Canadians. We help service systems and organizations in all sectors to build proven financial empowerment approaches into their businesses in ways that are sustainable, help them achieve their goals, and that tangibly increase the financial well-being of the low-income people that they serve. We begin by acknowledging that we are joining you from Toronto, which is situated upon traditional territories. The territories include the Wendat, Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and the Métis Nation. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. This is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Today, the meeting place of Toronto is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work in this community and on this territory. We invite you to make your own acknowledgements in the chat. Okay, so in just a moment, I'm going to introduce you to our panel speakers. We are fortunate to have with us today speakers from 3 of our financial empowerment project partners. Then I'll share an overview of our projects and some of the insights that we gained. Then the partners will share their insights specifically on partnerships, service delivery, and tax filing. And we'll have some time at the end for Q&A as well, as we mentioned. Please do leave questions in the chat at any point throughout the webinar as we're going. We'll do our best to answer them kind of on the fly. But also when we get to the Q&A, we'll have them as a resource to go back to. And again, please reach out to Jenny if you have any technical issues. So let's get started. Hear that people are still coming in. That's fantastic. We are now introducing the speakers we have today, and then we'll move on with the insights from the report. So I'm very happy to be joined today by 4 passionate and knowledgeable speakers. John Coburn has been working in the financial empowerment field since 2000. He started as a certified credit counselor with the Sudbury Community Service Center, and in 2017 became their financial empowerment coordinator. He also achieved his AFCPE accreditation in 2022. As someone from a small rural community in Northern Ontario, John has a soft spot for the often overlooked and underserved communities in the North. This project has allowed him to bring much needed services to many different communities across the North. John relishes the opportunity to visit the different communities, meet different people, and help in any way he can. Millie Acuna comes from a unique blend of industry and nonprofit experience in providing financial access to low-income Canadians through 15 years with a local credit union and in a current role as manager of asset building programs at Seed Winnipeg. As part of the credit union system, Millie worked in various management roles for 7 retail branches, process improvement, community financial access programs, and supported the credit union through audit and risk procedures, a 4-way credit union merge, banking system conversion, and established a student-run credit union for a Winnipeg inner-city high school. Presently, Millie coordinates the delivery of financial empowerment programs through over 100 community agencies by providing on-site services, service provider training, and mentorship. Program interventions include financial literacy and access to banking. Millie is passionate about serving unbanked and underbanked individuals, strengthening relationships within the community, and supporting financial empowerment for all to build a sustainable future. Sally Massey-Weed is a financial counselor and financial empowerment coordinator with Community Financial Counseling Services. She is the lead curriculum developer for CFCS's financial coaching and tax filing and access to benefits programs, and facilitates much of the agency's training to equip frontline staff and volunteers with the tools to compassionately empower their communities. Sally is joined today by Amanda Hallett. Amanda is from Sioux Valley, Dakota Nation. She's the program associate for this project at CFCS and has been working on the front line providing services to communities throughout Manitoba. So now we would like to get a sense of who you are. So please share in the chat your name and the organization you work for, and we will get a chance to see who's with us. Welcome. Anne from Credit Counseling Society, a few folks from the city of Brantford. CFCS folks supporting their team members. That's great. Thunder Bay, Kamloops. United Way, Credit Union, Milton, Ontario. Amazing. We have PI, great. We have folks still coming in, Edmonton, Alberta. Well, we have quite a representation across the country, don't we? Kitchener, Saskatoon, Burlington, amazing. Okay, please continue to drop your own introductions in the chat. I think next we have a quick poll. Jenny's going to launch a poll through the chat, and we're going to see a little bit more about who we have in the room today. Jenny? Please select the province or territory where you work. After you put in your vote and submit, you should be able to see the build of all the different groups. Folks from Toronto, Nova Scotia, all across Ontario. Great. Well, thank you for sharing, everybody. And if you haven't introduced yourself in the chat, please go ahead and do that. It's great to have such a varied and large group here today. All right, so we're going to start with a bit of background on this project. After the session, you will receive a summary report and a recording of the webinar by email. But the slides that you see today will be part of that. The Building Financial Wellness in First Nations project ran from 2021 to 2023 and was led by Prosper Canada, with funding provided by IG Wealth Management. The project aimed to integrate culturally appropriate financial wellness supports into existing services in Manitoba and Ontario First Nation communities. Jenny, can we have the next slide? We did this by nurturing partnerships between interested First Nation communities and 3 non-Indigenous financial empowerment organizations. These are the the partners you've already met today. So that's SEED and CFCS in Winnipeg, and Sudbury Community Service Center in Ontario, in Sudbury, Ontario. We are also grateful for our project advisor, AFOI Canada. These 3 financial empowerment organizations developed relationships and worked in partnership with First Nation communities to deliver tailored services as requested by the communities. These included access to ID, tax filing assistance to obtain refunds and benefits, money management training, both in group sessions and one-on-one counseling, and then knowledge sharing and capacity building events. These services were delivered in person where possible, but also virtually and by phone. So these partnerships resulted over the course of the 2-year project in the delivery of tailored in-person financial help to over 5,000 First Nation community members, and helped communities secure over $8 million in new income during the project period. With support from AFOI Canada and an Indigenous evaluation advisor, we also carried out a process evaluation to identify insights from this experience that might be shared to scale financial empowerment to other communities across Canada. And that's one of the reasons that we're here today. So let's go on to the next section. As organizations, we've gained a lot from this experience, and we've tried to synthesize this into 5 key insights. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, and then the project partners are going to speak to them, and they will really bring these insights to life. But let me give you a quick kind of overview of each of them. The first one is that free financial empowerment services and supports are essential financial help that First Nation communities value and need. We found that tax filing, access to benefits, access to ID, and money management skills are recognized by communities as important parts of the wellness of their members, households, and community. One community partner noted in our evaluation, quote, "The partnership is very positive for us. The people it benefits are very vulnerable, and we're excited to have our FE partner come to do an IT clinic. It's open to all, there's no cost. Also, the budgeting workshop upcoming for post-secondary students, we're looking forward to. This partnership's going really well. It brings lots of resources to the community." Another kind of nuance to this insight is that assumptions should not be made about what, when, and how to connect communities with these services and supports. So the second insight is around effective partnerships. Partnerships initiated by First Nations with non-Indigenous service providers can result in the delivery of appropriate and effective services in First Nation settings. And I'm going to include another a comment here from the evaluation. One partner noted, quote, "Venturing into a First Nation community requires an invitation from within until we become known and respected." So this summarizes up to the organizations that can take a slow and collaborative and flexible approach to partnership development, and that can invest in trust building and in-person visits are well positioned to be able to address the needs of the First Nation communities that they're visiting. Financial empowerment organizations must engage early and often with Indigenous organizations, staff, and leaders to determine the approach, the services, the timing, and the content of the service and supports. As one partner noted, quote, "Decisions need to be co-developed with partnering Indigenous and non-Indigenous organizations. There cannot be a predetermined path to what the partnership or the action should look like. Partnerships move at the speed of trust." So maintaining a respectful relationship with the committed contact in the community is also, we found, a key to a successful partnership, especially as the years go by in the partnership. Insight is about services, is that the services and supports need to be both appropriate and aligned with the community's priorities. So one example of this collaboration was a money management training program that was co-designed between the partners to, quote, to tie into the goals that were outlined by the community's strategic plan. So co-designing service so it syncs up with other initiatives that are underway is an important way of aligning with priorities. Services that are tailored to the community, that are culturally appropriate, that are flexible, provided in partnership, can be effective not only in addressing the needs, but also promoting uptake of additional related services and supports. One community partner also said, in reference to their financial empowerment partner, quote, "Their Indigenous-led youth-focused program is great because it is so important to have Indigenous people providing services and delivering programs to other Indigenous people." And this leads to an additional detail or piece element here, which is that as it's requested, capacity building for First Nations staff can follow on the delivery of services to expand that, the delivery of more services. The fourth insight is that positive word of mouth is the most effective way to promote uptake within a community. One partner said, quote, "Word of mouth is important because we want those that do have a good and positive experience with the program to talk to others around them and let them know." We found that not only was this important within the community, but also positive word of mouth drives demand from other First Nation communities where friends and family might live and travel, which creates a lot of pressure and opportunity for the financial empowerment partners to expand services. Though expanding the services in person is ideal, alternatives including virtual helplines, train the trainer programming, and other approaches that integrate FE into existing service systems also can provide promising avenues for expanding the reach of FE programs. And finally, partnerships with communities should be a long-term commitment. Relationships between partners on this project had in some cases been forming for more than 10 years. As one said, the most important thing to sustainability is ensuring that we can maintain the relationships and the hubs that we're already working in. Maintaining these relationships is a commitment that partners need to make to the communities beyond the vagaries of funding streams. As one said, the desire for services is there. We just need to ensure that we can keep up with the need and that the program is sustainable. And another said on the same note, sustainability and being able to follow through on our promises is required for building and maintaining trust and relationships. And finally, we heard that supporting organizations like Prosper Canada and funders like IG Wealth Management have provided critical support to the partners to enable them to sustain their capacity for the service delivery and to share learnings with each other in the broader field. So now I'm going to turn it over to our partners. I've asked them to reflect on these insights that we developed as a team over the last year. So let's start with John from Sudbury Community Service Center. He's going to share some of his experience building partnerships with some of the First Nation communities in Ontario where they're working.
Thanks, Helen, and hello, everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit about the insights about starting a relationship with First Nation communities. And like the key insights has said, everything hinges on trust. Being supported by a local agency has been crucial in our entry into First Nation communities. And we often partner with various different agencies within the community, whether it's Ontario Works or social services administration boards, health centers, friendship centers, something to that effect that allows us to have what we call a warm welcome into the community. First Nation communities can be very wary of outsiders coming into the community offering services because historically they've not always been a positive experience for them. Having that warm welcome allows us to come into the community and starts to establish trust in the community when we start to help out and offer the services that we're offering. We need to take time to build relationships with those other relationships we created with the community. So, for example, recently we started to partner with a Service Ontario trailer that moves through the North Shore of Lake Superior through 7 or 8 different First Nation communities, and allowing us to tag along with them and offer the services that we offer while they offer people help with renewing their ID or getting license plates for a vehicle or a trailer or something like that. Sort of legitimizes what we're doing and allows us to be introduced into the community as somebody that can be trusted to help them with their income tax or to secure ID or to talk about one-on-one sort of financial crises that they're in or questions that they might have. So having that warm welcome is crucial. Next comes the consistent part. We have to be there on a regular basis in order to establish trust. A lot of First Nation communities have people who want to come and offer services, and they come once or twice, and then they're never seen again. So like we were saying earlier, building that sustainability is crucial to help us being able to go in on a consistent basis so that we can build on that trust that we had from the warm welcome and start to build a reputation there so that people start to recognize that we can be trusted with the questions that they have and with the services that we want to offer. Also, doing things in person goes a long way to help build that trust. A lot more personal than having an email or a phone call or a Zoom or a Teams meeting like this. And the often limited technology with the communities that we serve, the more remote communities, makes it almost impossible to do anything virtually. The internet in some of the communities isn't reliable or sometimes non-existent. Cell service is not always the most consistent. So being there in person really helps us to establish that trust and establish that consistency. We want to build a rapport with the First Nation communities, and by doing that is by being there on a regular basis, being a constant and trusted presence in the different communities. I frequent proves to be invaluable when building relationships and furthering relationships with other nearby communities or other new people coming into the community. I try to be there every month consistently, rain, snow, sun, doesn't matter, helping the different individuals with their different questions and the different services that they want. The next part is important, is that you can't tell people what to do. It's important to explore all the options, go through the benefits, the drawbacks, the advantages and the disadvantages of each option individually, and then allow them to take that information and make the choice of what they want to do on their own time. Telling people what to do is not the best approach, I don't think, anywhere, but giving people the information and the education and the knowledge that they need to make an informed decision is what I think is really successful about what we do. So exploring every option, for instance, if it's dealing with debt, what's involved in going, offering settlements to the collection agencies, or what about bankruptcy, or how about a credit counseling program, or repaying these collection agencies on your own? What are the advantages, the drawbacks of each of those? How do they go about doing it? How can we help them and assist them and support them in that endeavor? And leading that into allowing them to take that. And sometimes it takes weeks, maybe even months for a decision to be made. But then when the decision is made, it is of their own volition, and then they're much more dedicated to that decision, willing to move forward with the plan that we can help put in place to achieve that financial goal, that goal of whatever they want to do. The last point is, don't just run in, do your business, and then leave again. It's important to be there and be part of the community, enjoy the culture, enjoy the food. If there's an event like a powwow or a holiday event or something like that, stick around and talk to them. Get to know the community that you're building trust in. I get to talk to people about the hockey game, about fishing, about their children and some of the challenges they're having, about kids leaving to go away to school. It really opens the door and gives you some insight into the needs of the community and what more we can offer them. A lot of what we talk about, and Helen made a really great point when we were talking yesterday, it's kind of this hallway conversation, or maybe it was Millie, where you're talking and you're putting on the presentation, but then sticking around after the presentation, after the workshop is over, to talk to people about what else is on their mind and what they're concerned with, really goes a long way to helping you help them. So don't just go in, do what you have to do and leave. Stick around, enjoy the moment, be present in the moment. Those are 4 really key essential points into building that trust and building a relationship with the different communities that we work with. And I think it's gone a long way to really help us further what we can do for those communities and even more communities neighboring, nearby, and even far and away. I think that's everything.
All right, thank you, John. And I see that Judy in the chat summarized some of kind of what you're saying and just validated that reciprocity in relationships is such an important piece of setting the tone for the relationship. Okay, so next we have asked Millie from Seed Winnipeg to speak to the 3 types of financial help services that her team has been providing in First Nation communities as part of this project. So over to you, Millie.
Hi, everyone. So excited to have over 140 people here to hear about our project. So thank you so much for letting me share. Money management training, it is our curriculum in terms of financial literacy. The one that we've been sharing with our First Nation communities is called Money Stories. Money Stories was born in 2011, where quick history, where our Aboriginal Senior Center had asked us for a budgeting workshop. And when learning about our workshop, they said, you know what, this would be great to share with our youth. And born Money Stories, the elders, seniors, and knowledge keepers decided to collaborate with Seed and co-deliver and create money stories. And since then, since 2011, it's grown word of mouth, delivery in schools, in Winnipeg nonprofit organizations. But what's exciting about this project is the ability to travel, to go to First Nations. And ultimately, it's our participants. It's the word of mouth that said, you know what, Seed did that for me in Winnipeg. I'd love for you to come to my home, our reserve, and share that information too. And often it may even be one of the coordinators or contacts I've made with and said, I took your course 6 years ago, and I'm inviting you to come here and deliver the workshop. So that's been such a wonderful connection and relationship building, is having our previous participants are the ones saying, you know what, we need to bring Seed in. Our workshops cover most of the topics that you're familiar with, is budgeting, credit, investments, even the fundamentals of needs versus wants. But what's really interesting is really the learnings and the customization of the topics since the project launched. And the one that will always speak to me is when I was in Norway House Cree Nation. One of the individuals said, Millie, I appreciate this information, but it's not relatable. The budgeting examples, the topics, the storytelling was all from the city perspective. And so that was a really good challenge for me and the team to go back and say, you know what, this person's right. Let's do this well. And we've been doing some research and working collaboratively with First Nation communities to tailor our curriculum and make it more relatable. So I really appreciated that feedback. We also have what we call our a la carte topics, where it's not part of the core curriculum, but based on what we've learned in the community and the trends and some of the topics when asking participants of what's important to them, we've now created topics like one-on-one financial coaching, sudden wealth, access to benefits, so applications to benefits they may be eligible for, the how-tos, fraud prevention, economic abuse, and even the topic of RESPs and the Canada Learning Bond. So those are the things that we've been able to customize after learning about each need in the community. And what's really exciting is that we do offer our curriculum in 3 first languages, in Cree, Ojibwe, and Ojibwe. And this project is now making it available for us to even explore the Métis language of Michif and possibly Inuktitut for our northern communities. So really exciting to share that news. The feedback I get from the money stories and curriculum is that, again, it's really based on that change maker, that contact that I have with. It could be a teacher, it could be someone from Jordan's principal, it could literally be just someone in the community saying, oh, our community really needs this. And so that relationship piece is a must. I can't express this much more than what you've heard so far, is that it's not us going to the community saying this is what you need. In fact, it's them saying this is what we need and then responding to that. So I've had some really great adventures on the travels that I wish I could share with you today, but just, shoot me an email. I can tell you about the adventures. But yeah, so that is money management training, and it's available either virtually or in person. And also it's a great segue to some of our other programs at Seed that we're making available or increasing access to, like our match savings programs. Access to ID events. Now, that is what we call our financial empowerment drop-in events. I think you might have probably heard about super clinics, but ultimately we would go into communities and do money management training, and often we find out that a lot of participants need help with ID. And so we've been able to work collaboratively with multi agencies like Service Canada, like Indigenous Service Canada, CFCS, which you'll hear in a moment, and ultimately just working together with financial institutions too, local ones that come in and say, let's help create a one-stop shop and help people access. So that's been really phenomenal that we've been able to take this show on the road and do these amazing one-day events, sometimes two-day events, providing that access. And so a lot of the times it's folks who say I need a social insurance number, but then realize no, the prerequisite to that is a birth certificate. And because of that ongoing relationship, we've been able to do the birth certificate applications and then follow up maybe 1 or 2 months later to do their social insurance. So that's been highly effective. And then lastly, it is our Train the Trainer. So we would love to build capacity among community members and the service staff that have connected with us. And often they're keen to learn the how-tos or how to facilitate the workshops themselves. And so we do offer 3-day Train the Trainer workshops, available virtually too, if travel is a concern. But ultimately, you learn the curriculum, you get to work with me full 3 days to understand the facilitation skills. But at the end of the day, it's about how you communicate with, you make it as comfortable as possible. And I, for one, just love just adapting, making it super comfortable. But you have those 3 full days to learn, but it doesn't end there. Once you graduate from Train the Trainer and you start to plan a session or some dates, you have Seed as a mentorship, or someone to go to for follow-up. So that's been really fun to do as well. And in fact, I'll be doing one in 2 weeks. The uptake has been amazing. And here's the thing, one last tidbit sort of ties everything together, is that from asking us to do a budgeting workshop to creating that ID accessibility and then going back to training their staff and community members has been a full 360 experience. And I truly believe the impact is that relationship, the partnership, but just all in all, seeing that we've got this project who's willing to do that and like actually go the distance to support this. So we're hoping to continue to do this for many years to come. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you, Millie. And thanks for kind of explaining how the 3 services tie together, and then creating a kind of a segue to your Manitoba partner. So once the Seed team has delivered some of those services, one or more of them that Millie described, if the community asks, often tax filing will come up in the context of any of those services that Millie's described. So Seed is able to put the community contact in touch with the tax filing team at CFCS, also in Winnipeg. It's kind of a warm handoff, a trusted partner and relationship. So at this point, I would like to invite Sally from CFCS to share some of share her reflections on the work that her team has done as part of this project.
Thank you very much, Helen, and it is indeed a pleasure to be here to share the impact of this program, and I will be collaborating with my colleague Amanda, who has been very involved in it as well, to share some of the things that we have learned. So to answer some of the questions that you see on the screen, you're going to hear a lot of commonalities between what has been shared as insights that have come from the project at large, as well as the experiences of John and Millie. And they're very similar to what we have learned as well. So when we start off by looking at what's different, what did we need to learn? We as an organization have had a long history of involvement with tax filing and access to benefits. But we needed to have a different approach when we were working with some of the First Nations communities. And what we recognized definitely was that absolutely every community was different. They may have differences in terms of their economic circumstances, in terms of their organizational levels of support, their social structures, but in all circumstances, a very keen cultural awareness and cultural sensitivity was really crucial. And we learned that being invited, and I use that word very intentionally, to join in these communities because of already established trusted relationships as a result of Seed's engagement with the various communities was really, really important. But in addition, we would also be invited to other communities because of the word of mouth. That was one of the insights that's clearly spread here, that as we were engaged in these communities, they talked to other communities or other organizations that were connected to various First Nations communities. And as a result of seeing the impact and the effect of the tax filing benefit services that were provided, we were invited to participate in those communities as well. And that was truly very important, as was the importance of shoring up those trusted relationships with the change makers. I think Millie used that word certainly yesterday in our conversations, those individuals in the community who were the ones that were initiating a lot of these empowerment activities. And building up and shoring up those relationships would really be important. And we did that partly by demonstrating the impact, by actually doing the work, and with the clear intent that it was to improve and empower the the First Nations communities financially, and the individual members. That it wasn't for us to hit KPIs or key performance indexes. It was because we wanted to be able to make a long-lasting difference. We were also very much aware of the fact, and this isn't unique, certainly to First Nations communities, but financial literacy, financial education, or financial illiteracy is fairly common. Not a lot of people get the tax jargon and tax speak and understand all of that. And understanding that we needed to change our approach to asking questions to be reflective of the level of understanding an individual might have, but also to be able to edify and empower them as a result. So learning that we needed to not ask questions about primary caregiver and dependents, but how many children do you have in your care on December 31st of the tax year, and explaining why this was important information and how it tied into the filing of the tax returns and the outcomes, as well as how to be able to help navigate some of the challenges that they might have experienced in the past because of perhaps not having the comprehensive understanding around tax and benefit related matters. That became something that we were able to do as part of filing tax returns and benefit applications in order to empower the communities and do it intentionally. So when we move on to look at, what's the same, there are a lot of similarities, but actually some of the similarities are also why there are some differences. So bear with me as I try to flesh that out for you. At CFCS, our tax programs have a saying that is, we do basic taxes, but for complicated lives. And when it comes to any of the CVITP work, the volunteer income tax program work we do anywhere, that is the case. But we certainly saw that it could be exacerbated in First Nations communities because of a number of different situations and circumstances. Some of those can be in play because of things like limited access to tax filing services historically, where that may have led to gaps in tax filing over the years. It may have also meant that they had no tax filing at all because it wasn't accessible to them. It could also be that what was available to them was really a monopoly by a commercial enterprise that was there, sometimes with predatory sort of rationale behind it, to sell taxes or to buy the tax returns essentially. And do cash back, often in December, long before tax season has come upon them. And the result was we saw gaps in tax filing, unfiled tax years, or we saw misfiled tax returns as a result of uninformed or misinformed commercial tax preparers. And so that certainly, while the complicated lives is the same, these are some of the differences that were very specific to some of these First Nations communities. We also saw additional complications in these circumstances as a result of the exempt income that is often found on First Nations communities. And that could have been where the exempt income was actually claimed not as exempt, it was taxed and it shouldn't have been, or it was incorrectly reported or claimed on the tax return in a way that was inappropriate for exempt income that led to wrong outcomes. And navigating the challenges that came with figuring out why it was wrong, how to fix it, and how to be able to support them in what is seldom a quick process to be able to resolve those kinds of issues was also something that was an additional complicating factor. And it really highlighted the fact that this is not a one and done. You can't just say, I'm done your return, you're good, nothing more that's needed for the year. But it really pointed to the importance of coming alongside the individuals that need to navigate these challenges and ensuring that we are able to provide the kind of ongoing support to resolve the issues that is really pivotal to building and strengthening those trusted relationships in the community. And perhaps over the years, some of these might be resolved as time goes by and we face more of them. But the fact is, it's as the others have mentioned, it's not a go in, do your business and get out. There is a lot that is involved, and we need to make sure we're very cognizant of that as we approach these communities and look to empower and serve them. And so this really starts to segue into the knowing this, what would we do different, or how would we approach it in future? And so I'm going to turn the mic over to my colleague Amanda, who was new to this tax filing world this last tax season, to share, what she wished she would know prior to going into it, and how we are able to begin moving forward before we wrap it up. So go ahead, Amanda.
Thank you so much. So my name's Amanda. I am a program associate for the Financial Wellness in First Nations communities. This was my very first tax year, so I have a little bit of insight. I just want what I wish I knew when I started. It's just more than taxes. When we're going to communities, it is way more than us just providing services. We are building connections, not just with band members, councilmen, chiefs. We're building it with the whole community. We're providing not just tax services, and the level of capacity we weren't able to meet. I found the level of need that's out there because of the lack of resources that are in these communities, the lack of transportation. There is no resource centers out there, so there's no public transportation. These kinds of things often hinder people from filing taxes, getting them properly done. We saw people selling their taxes, so they ultimately did not know what benefits that they were entitled to, or if they got the correct benefits. They actually never received tax summaries after selling taxes. So when they're coming to us, we're often finding that taxes are filing wrong, that we're having to do more follow-ups and more showing them step by step on how to deal with debt, how to deal with the CERB debt obviously has been a huge one, how to even do a child tax application. I have filed taxes for people that have not, that their children are about 10 years old and have never received a child tax for them because they just didn't know how. So just finding those lacks of resources and building a partnership with other community members that have worked inside the band office and that kind of thing has been really essential for us, because we are able to use them, use SEED, use Service Canada, and kind of collaborate. It's a big collaboration to get things done. So one thing I most definitely need to say is it's more than taxes. It is bringing your heart there and just knowing that the work that you're doing is just impacting more than you would ever know. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And that's a great segue to what would we say is important to know if you are thinking of engaging in this work and haven't been already doing that. So what advice would we give you? Again, it isn't new information. You've heard it in various formats throughout the session together today, but building that connection and those relationships first and foremost, and asking where the community sees the need, and being willing to offer a partnership when invited to do so, emphasizing that the clear focus is on the well-being for the community, and that we are looking to support in the delivery of services that's meaningful to that community, meets their needs. And we need to be prepared, or you need to be prepared if you're looking to do this, to make a commitment to be faithful and flexible in the follow through with that commitment. And I think it's really important to recognize that we do not want to in any way undermine the trust that has been placed in us by these First Nations communities we're serving, by not being genuine in our intent and our follow through. And rather, we need to be very willing to do it at their pace, at their invitation, to meet their needs, to empower them in a way that is appropriate. We need to make sure we are non-judgmental. Money is a tough topic for most to talk about, but we especially need to be aware of financial trauma and all of the impacts that might be a factor working with anybody that is in a low income situation in some cases, or that is just dealing with distress around finances when they are facing matters to do with Canada Revenue, etc. We need to be able to stick with it. And we also need to expect going into this that it is more than just the very basic tax knowledge that's often required to navigate through these circumstances with the communities. I've told you our saying is basic taxes for complicated lives, but what we're often dealing with is also complicated taxes for somebody that's just trying to live a basic life. And our learning from our work in the First Nations communities in the Financial Wellness Project, but in the volunteer income tax program in general, is that often you need way more than a beyond the basics understanding of taxes to be able to support these communities. That means adequate level of training and resourcing supports, knowledgeable connections to be able to identify issues, resolve those issues, and provide the ongoing support. And ultimately, ideally, provide the capacity building opportunities within the community so that the communities can most appropriately do this for themselves, is our advice at the end of this portion of the project. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sally and Amanda, for your comments on the tax filing. Okay, so now you have heard quite an earful from all of us. And I think you've probably heard both the enthusiasm and the sensitivity with which we've approached this work. We'd like to open up the session. We do have a little bit of time. If there are questions for any of the speakers today, you can use the raise bar, raise your hand, and Jenny will try to unmute you. Okay, I see Corinne has raised a hand. Jenny, are you able to give her access?
Yeah, just give me a moment. I'll be right there. Okay, Corinne, you should be allowed to speak. Oh, don't know if it's working. Just a moment. Corinne, can you try unmuting yourself? It should be working now.
Okay, good. So this is the first time you're hearing from me?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear.
We hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
yay, okay. So basically, I want to first tip my hat to all of you. Thank you so much for this invaluable information. It's incredible. And as a financial system navigator myself, I'm continuing to learn such a great wealth of information today. So thank you. I just wanted to flag a situation that occurred with me. We have a community tax program that actually, lucky for us, we have a chartered accountant doing our taxes on behalf of a client. I work within a Native community, a First Nations community. And I went and we did 10 years of taxes for an individual who never filed his taxes. So lo and behold, he lives in First Nations and works for First Nations. So that comes with being exempt on federal taxes. I'm not an expert. But this poor gentleman ended up going to the bank and was saving for his future as people who don't live on the land, they were giving advice that wasn't custom to him. So they encouraged him to purchase an RRSP. So he did. And so when we did his taxes, now CRA is considering that RSP income an over contribution amount, and he's paying interest, and we're trying to walk it back. Has anybody experienced that? And do you have any tips and tricks other than we're going to approach the bank and ask why they didn't really, do their due diligence and ask more questions before they went ahead with selling them a product that had really no benefit to him? It would have been better suited in a tax-free savings account. I'm not an expert. I'm just sharing with people, A, for a warning, and B, to ask for any insight.
So Sally, you're done.
Yeah, I can comment on some of that. So they shouldn't be treating it as taxable income, but the fact that he had no contribution limit because he wasn't showing earned income on his tax return to build the contribution limit is why they are saying it's an excess contribution, and they do charge costs penalties on that for as long as it stays in the RRSP. It can be withdrawn from that, but he should not pay tax on that if it can be clearly documented that this was exempt income. And hopefully that is something that is doable, because he would have a box 71 on his T4A for the years where he earned it. And then that can at least be stopped from going any further. It is extremely unfortunate that he was ill-advised to put money into an RSP, because you're correct, a TFSA would have been the better option for him there. But there should be a way to resolve it from getting any further at this point. And I'd be happy to chat with you about that offline later on as well.
Yeah, we're just starting to tackle it. So yeah, it would be nice to have, somebody that maybe has been through it just to kind of help me, guide me. I feel responsible because I helped him get his taxes done, and now,
Yeah.
we got the jack in the box that we didn't like. It's it's like screen coming at you on a dark night, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're
All
welcome.
right, thank you for the
Lloyd,
question, Karen.
unmuted you as well. I think Lloyd has a question.
And Lloyd is next.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon,
Also like
Lloyd.
to say very, very good presentation and a wealth of information. I work for the Matawa Tribal Council in Thunder Bay, and I also have been implementing services such as financial. Well, I'm a financial advisory. I'm in the financial advisory department. But I also help the individuals. I'm also the main focus is for the communities in terms of governance, accounting, bookkeeping, and finance. But in any case, I'm helping individuals with like taxes, financial literacy, so on and so forth. I can't put anything in the chat here for some reason, but I would like to connect with somebody. I'm not too sure who that would be, but I'd like to kind of try to develop some kind of partnership, I'd imagine. I'm kind of doing this all on my own right now. Like the income taxes, we partner with the Canada Revenue Agency through the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program, but it's just me right now. And then I also do like budgeting workshops, any type of financial literacy, all this kind of stuff you guys are doing. And I promote you guys when I'm doing that kind of stuff. I use your benefits wayfinder. I promote all the tools, websites, and whatever you guys have. But I would love to have you guys come and visit the communities here and try to develop some kind of system or annual or biannual type thing or something. I'm not sure yet. I just wanted to throw that out there. But in any case, great job. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Lloyd. And I think probably the closest partner would be John there in Sudbury, although we do also have FE, a financial empowerment partner in Thunder Bay, and I can give you some contact information there if you need that.
We have one more person, Lindsay. We can maybe sneak in one more question, and
Okay.
then we'll have to wrap up.
Okay, Lindsay?
Lindsay, you have to unmute yourself. I have given you access.
Sorry about that. We work, I have a few of my colleagues on the line as well. We work with an advisory firm or a pension broker, I guess, that works with a lot of Indigenous communities across Canada. And we are currently working with the CRA and our communities to lobby for a tax exempt box on the T4 RIF and the T4 RSPs. So we have a petition as well as letters that we're sending out to our communities for chief and council to sign. I'm just wondering if there's someone I can send it to in your organization as well.
Yeah, go ahead and send it to me and I can distribute it to the team and we can talk about it at our next meeting, which happens to be tomorrow, and see how we can support.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
Okay, so I think I have the instruction from Jenny that I need to wrap things up here. So I apologize for the questions we didn't get to. But as she mentioned, she's going to be sharing ways to connect with speakers. So I just want to, before we wrap up the session, I'm happy to share the news that this project's success has led to ongoing partnerships and interest from additional communities in forming future phases of work that are now funded and scheduled through 2025. With a focus on geographic and service expansion, these partners are building capacity to engage Indigenous individuals in over 30 First Nation communities and in urban settings. We're also looking at building a virtual financial helpline in Manitoba, a community of practice, and a consumer-facing resource on sudden wealth. those are all part of this next phase of work. So I want to thank our speakers today here, Sally and Amanda and John and Millie, who always do a great job of telling our story. So thank you to you. And then I want to thank all our participants for attending this workshop. This has been a fantastic turnout and some great questions and great engagement. So thank you. Jenny is providing or has provided in the chat a from you how this went for you so we can build that into our future events. So please take a minute before we lose you in the rest of your busy day. And if you want to sign up for the Prosper Canada newsletter or follow us on social media, you can do that through our website, and there are some links here. Also, my colleague Anna will be available for program-related questions at this email. So with that, I want to say thank you so much for your time and attention today. We really appreciate all your contributions to this conversation and just showing up and being willing to spend this hour with us, and hope that we will see you again soon. Thank you, everybody.